Hello again, friends, and welcome into another edition of Wrestling with Rusty right here on YouTube for June the 3rd, 2026. Hang on, let me get more light in here. Please forgive me. I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared. You'll understand why in a minute. Okay. Welcome in to another edition of Wrestling with Rusty right here on YouTube for June the 3rd, 2026. This video is about Vince McMahon and WWE and possible uh, civil or criminal fraud charges for not selling to the right buyer and the stockholders filing a lawsuit. So I'll get to that in a minute. But before I get to that, let me address another issue. One person wrote in and said they were sorry to hear about my caregiver issues and my health issues, which is why I wasn't able to do a video for the last 3 weeks to a month. Well, I still don't have enough caregivers, and I probably won't have enough caregivers as long as I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I got a caregiver named China. No, not the China that used to be the wrestler, but spelled the same, Chyna. China, who is a good person and a great friend. And I don't know if I'll ever get to tell her or be with her in a romantic situation in terms of dating, but she's a special lady. So whether she ends up with me or not, she will make somebody very happy. Hopefully, it'll be me. You guys keep your fingers and toes crossed, and I'll keep you abreast of it. But thank you for being concerned about my personal life medically and also my personal life as it turns out in terms of relationships. But you guys didn't come here to hear me talk about the lovely and talented China, who I adore profusely. What you did is you came here to hear about Vince McMahon and the WWE. Vince McMahon and Nick Khan, along with potentially other WWE staffers from the past, will have to testify at an upcoming trial next month about whether or not the stockholders of World Wrestling Entertainment received the correct buying price when Vince McMahon sold the company to TKO, the same owners of the UFC Ultimate Fighting Championships. At that time, Vince McMahon sold to UFC for a reported $9 billion in exchange for stock options and a seat on the board and president and chairman. And now you know that at that time, he also got involved with this Janelle Grant lawsuit in which he was cheating on his wife with this lady named Janelle Grant. And the Janelle Grant lawsuit is now going on, and who knows when or how that's going to end. But for purposes of this video, the stockholders of World Wrestling Entertainment have filed a lawsuit saying that they could have got a better price for their stock if they had sold to a company called Liberty Media. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics and Post Wrestling being the website in Canada, WrestleNomics being Brandon Thurston's own website here in the United States. Brandon Thurston deserves all the credit for this story, not me. But essentially, the stockholders could have gotten more than $9 billion for WWE had Vince McMahon taken the Liberty Media offer rather than the TKO UFC offer. But as I said, the reason he took the TKO UFC is because and now President Ari Emanuel of TKO had agreed to give Vince McMahon a seat on the board and president or some kind of executive role in addition to the $9 billion, which is why Vince McMahon sold the company to TKO slash UFC instead of Liberty Media or anyone else. This upcoming trial next month slated for approximately mid-July. Hopefully will be carried by Court TV or one of those other court channels or on the internet somehow so we can see this. Because it's only going to be a judge who recently found that WWE, Vince McMahon, and Nick Khan participated in deceptive practices when they sold the company to TKO UFC, and denied some of the motions that Vince McMahon and others wanted to suppress. In other words, they're not going to suppress some of the evidence, I should say, not motions, but evidence. So we'll have to see how this trial turns out for Nick Khan and Vince McMahon and others. I know that Paul Levesque, better known as Triple H, and his wife Stephanie McMahon are slated to testify, among others. And guys, for all of you that thought Stephanie McMahon resigned from the WWE board in protest because Vince McMahon came back before the Janelle Grant lawsuit exposed everything on that part. Her hands are all over this. If you had read the article that I read from Brandon Thurston, you would understand that Stephanie McMahon knew not only about Janelle Grant, but she also knew about the TKO UFC / Endeavor merger long before anybody else did. And by selling it to them, she also would have a seat somewhere in the corporation at the time. And of course, Paul Levesque, her husband, Triple H, is still director of creative at the moment of this recording. So Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, and Paul Levesque all had reasons for Vince McMahon to sell to TKO / UFC instead of Liberty Media, anybody else, or the milkman, the mailman, the candlestick maker. But we'll have to see all this shakes out in court beginning next month, sometime in July. When I find a specific date out, I'll be sure to bring it to you right here on Wrestling with Rusty, right here on YouTube. And until we meet again, pray that I will finally, someday, before I pass away, get China to go out with me at least. But until then, I'll keep doing these videos and keeping you abreast of everything that is pro wrestling, because you didn't come here to hear about my prospective girlfriends or my healthcare problems or anything else. You came here to hear about pro wrestling. So until we meet again, my friends, God bless. And as the voice of AEW, Ring of Honor, Ian Riccaboni would say, happy wrestling, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.